tell you about. So today I'm going to tell you about the methods. So what I'll do is I'll just take a copy of this class for now. In the package, I'll say class 2 for now. So I've opened class 2. In this, the same thing. We did addition of two numbers yesterday, right? So we have got the output, and when we execute this, we'll get the output here. So let's say I just don't want the other one. We'll for now we'll just take int number 1 and number 2. Sorry, this shouldn't be space. And then the output is int output equals to addition of two numbers. So when you type control space, you would get the variables as well. Like instead of copy pasting, let's say you just want to access, so you can take number 1, number 2, and the other static variables or the local variables, whatever we declare, would be there here. So here from this we can take number 2. For indentation, just select Control A and Control I. That gives us proper indentation, right? So since we have added this addition just in one particular main method, so why do we need methods, other methods that I said, now custom methods that we want to create? What's the purpose of method? So usage, I would say. So let's say you have already done the addition in class 1, and now what if in class 2 as well you are again doing that addition? So kind of you are repeating your code, right? So one thing is since the code is repeating, and as per the coding standard, whatever is suggested, so we shouldn't be repeating our code in the project, and try to reduce the duplicacy, I would say, redundancy and duplicacy of the code. So for that purpose, methods are the ones that helps us. So how to create a method? So first of all, we can create method inside a class but outside other method. It shouldn't be any method. So inside a method, if we just want to create a method, we cannot. We can call a method, but we cannot create a method. So for that purpose, for now, let's assume I'll just remove this. There is nothing, so it's a class, right? So inside this class, I want to create a method called addition of two numbers. So how to do? The syntax for that would be, let's say I'll write and then I'll explain. Public static void and the method name. So or else instead of this, we'll do starts with method creation. How a method starts? So we need a method name, basically just like a variable we do, right? Before variable, we create a variable and then assign a value, and then we give the type of that variable. The same way we'll do for method as well. So method is, let's say we want to create addition, or method 1 for now, just general method I'm writing. Later we'll do it for addition. So method 1, and again the name starts with small for the methods, as I said, and open close the function and then braces. So this means when you have a name and then a function, so which means this completely block is going to be a method. And so we have written a method. So how about other things? So now Java is not identifying this thing as a method, because in their standards they have mentioned for a method declaration there should be some particular syntax. So what is that? So one, you have written a method name, but for that particular method you also have to write the access modifier. So access modifier for that particular method. Access modifier in the sense to what level, to which particular level you want to give access for this particular method. To let's say we have created one method and in one class. So if you whatever code, whatever method you are going to write, do you want this particular method to be accessed only in this class? If it is, then there is one access modifier which is called private. Let's say, okay, we don't want to give this, we also want this to be shared with something, some other packages as well, some other classes, some other things, right? So in that case we have different methods, which is access modifier, which is public, protected, and the default one. So we have all those things, but for now let's just start with public. So we have public as an access modifier. What else? So we also have a keyword called static. So what this static means? So static is nothing but we are trying to just attach or associate this particular method with the class. And then for your understanding, for just beginning, what you say is once we create any static, be it a variable or a method, we can directly call that uh, method or variable with the name of that particular variable or class, variable or the method. Inside this class, if we just want to call, we can just directly call with the method name. So if it's a variable, just directly call with the method, the variable name. So that's why we give static here. I'll say, so there would be two other things. One is static, the other is non-static. So how to declare a non-static one? Just static keyword won't be there in that. So which means that would be a non-static block. So here we have public as an access modifier, static for associating this particular thing with the class, so that directly we can access. And then the third keyword here would be the return type of the method. So in this method, what action or what things you want to perform, so based on that we generally write the return type. So for now I would say return type as void in the sense empty, nothing. I just don't want to return anything. So whatever I do in my method, uh, yeah, that's it. I just don't want to return anything from this particular method. uh, and then once we write all this syntax, you see the error has gone. So which means this is the standard that was developed by Java people. So we need to have access modifier. So what's the syntax? If I have to say, we need to have access modifier, and then, or just I'll say access, so that access modifier you say, and then static or non-static keyword, and then next third one would be return type, and then next is the method name. So this is how we declare the method. So once we have this method, so inside your method you can write any line of code, whatever you want. So for now I'll just say print something which is uh, I'm printing this is method one or something. This is method one. So now once I execute this class, now let's say I want to execute it. If I execute, are we getting any output? What it says, main method not found in the class. This, please define a main method as, so it gives us this thing, right? You see, so that's why to for a class to execute, even if you write n number of methods here, and if that particular class doesn't have main method, Java won't execute, because it needs a starting point and an entry point, right? So that's why we get this particular error. So how to write that main method? We can just take this thing, or again we know that syntax, right? So let's say for now I'll just take this thing, public static void main. Again, this is access modifier, this is static keyword, and then the void is return type of that main method. Name is main, and then there is something called arguments or the parameters. So main method accepts this. I'll say about parameters as well later. So then function open close braces, and we are not ending it with semicolon. So if it is there, then that won't be considered. So in that way, what we do is we just give the method name with this function braces, and then normally, like in Java, as I said, it ends with semicolon. So for a method, it doesn't end it that way. Only thing is when we call it, we do it. So now let's say we have main method, and now would I be able to execute this method? See, if I execute on the console, it is empty. But our expectation was this should have been printed. Reason why it is not printed, because this method, even if you have written, it has not been called or it has not been used. So uh, in main method, as I said, once you start execution, the entry comes here, and in main method it goes to this line, which is sixth line, it says empty, and then goes to seventh line, which is end of method. That's it. So it does empty, it's not doing anything. That's why here you need to, whatever you write would be displayed here in the console. So here I'm in main method. I'm in main method now. So you see, if I execute, I'm in main method now, which means it has come here, and then it has printed and then ended. Again, we have not used this thing. So how to use this particular method again? We use, so for that, we need to see how a method would be called. Just directly with the method name, we can call it. So method one is a method name, but for a method, there should be this function braces and then end with semicolon. That's it. So this line, what it does is first main, it prints this one, and then it comes here. From here, it jumps to, so when you say control and open this declaration, or a mouse over on this and click, so it navigates to that particular method. And in this method, it comes here. When this ninth line is executing, it comes to that method particularly, directly jumps. Whatever the next line you write, it doesn't go there. So until and unless this complete method is finished, executed, all whatever lines of code you have written in that method, it doesn't go to the next lines. So is it clear? This you need to understand, so that uh, yeah, when we do in Selenium, like kind of framework, when you are trying to understand and then do those things, so you would have such things. So I'm just also trying to relate those things. So whatever we use in Selenium for better understanding, or for the basics ones, so all these things I'm just focusing it now, so that when we actually do that, you would be kind of more understanding those lines, so whatever code we write. So method when it is written, and here if I say this out, I am on 11th line, I would say. So first thing, in this case, what it does, it just prints this, and on 9th line, it goes to this method. And here, if you write something or the other code again, so all the lines would be executed. Whatever you do here, it would be executed. Then after, it goes to your 11th line. Until then, it only once I would kind of okay, I'll just say this and skip this or go to the next one. It doesn't do it that way. So completely the method would be executed, then only it goes to the next line. So now, so in this method, it calls this 18th line would be printed, and that's it. So end of method. So once the end of method, from here, it goes to again on the line, and it says, yeah, I'm finished. I'm completed doing whatever you have asked me. So after that, it goes to the 10th line, the next line. So on the 11th, it prints this. So when I execute it, so see, first one was, it came here on the 7th line, then it goes to the ninth line, which is method. From method, it has jumped here, and then it has executed this, and then it came back, and then it printed this one. So I hope this flow, the execution is clear. Yeah. Right. Cool. Yeah. Lakshmi. So whatever method we have created, so this was just the basic method. But what was our target? So we wanted to uh, create a method called addition, right? So now same way we'll create a method for addition. Again, now let's say, oh, now I'll just disable this thing. I just don't want to. So I'll execute it. And what we got here, this is method one, right? Now, let's say if we have, this is method one, I would print it starting. And then since this is the last line, I'll say ended. So let's say we have done something, started and then ended. Now if we execute it, so it gives whatever we have done, right? Now again, if you want, so this method here we have called once, right? So if we want, we can call it multiple times, n number of times based on our requirement. It's nothing like there's any limitation on that. So here we have called this method 5 times. So we have not written this system.out.println method one started, method one ended 5 times, right? We just written once at one particular location and then we are just calling it. And once we execute it, you see the output now. This is your first method, that you have called, and then the second, then the third, fourth, n number of times. So whatever you want, we can do it that way. For now, I'll just comment. So for commenting multiple lines, what you can do is just say Control Shift and the question mark or the backspace you have. So you click it. So it gives you this particular line of code in the commented ones. For now, I'm just having one method which is called, and then again outside. See, whenever you see whatever the next method that I want to create, I'm just coming outside of any of that method. So this is outside of this method, and then now I want to create method two. Let's say, so I would be writing it here. So public void, or again the static void method two. So you see, so this method I've created outside other methods. So if I try to create this inside any of that method, would I be able to do? It says some error. Reason, it's not there. So it's kind of Java, it's assuming inside a method you're trying to create kind of variables or do something stuff, but a method cannot be created. Even in main method, if you want to create, yeah, that's again a method, right? So again, method inside method is not possible. You cannot create or you cannot write it. So that's why if you want a method to be created, just create outside the method, but it should be again inside the class. So class starting is here, but the ending is here, right? So within this range, again outside this range, if you just want to create, you cannot create method. Reason being, so it's not inside the class. Even the methods or variables, it should be inside in the class. So we have got this. So here this, then again this is second method. So I would say method two. So this method creation, yeah, is kind of very important, I would say, because when we actually work on the automation part as well, you would come to know what's the purpose or benefit of creating this method. So you should be clear. Yeah, any doubts if you have, please ask, get your doubts clarified so that you would be able to understand the later classes as well. So here we have created this method, and now let's say we have two methods, as I said. Now comes the actual method that we wanted to do. So we wanted to create a method called addition. So I would say give the name as proper addition, and then again this should have all this the keywords, right? So I would say this as public, And again a static method I want to create. The type return type for now I just want to return nothing, which is empty. And then inside this particular thing I would write the addition. So how do you generally perform the addition of two numbers? Int number one is 50, int num2 is 45. So 45, let's take this as 45 for now. And then we have two variables and that are not being used, that's why we are getting warning. How to perform this addition? So addition would be again int, we want to store this in some result variable, let's say, or addition. So I would say result num1 plus num2 is what the logic for addition. So that we have written here. And then we just want to print uh, addition is, so result. So I've written a method. Inside a method, the code, whatever I want to perform. And now, so here we have called. So how to call? Now, if you execute this main method again, only method one is called, but we want to actually call not the main method. I want to call something else. So I want to call the addition. How to call it? Just say give the addition and method name. So since it's a static and method name is static, as I said, it would be associated with the class. So if you come inside this wherever you want to call, just press Control Alt, and then it gives all the static variables or the methods access inside the same class. So whatever you have created. So here, if you see, I have addition, I have main method, I have method one, I have method two. Now, let's say the method two, I would create as a non-static. So this is non-static as well, because there is no static keyword. Even this is possible, right? We can create a method with not static as a keyword. And once we create, now if you see here, do we have access to that? If you see addition, main method, method one, that's it. So we don't have method two. Why? Because it is a non-static method. And for a non-static method, what should we do? That I'll say after a while. So for now, non-static are not accessed. So this is a static kind of block. Again, main method is static, and in static method, we can access any static variables or the methods. So we just want to call addition. So I would say addition. And then that's it. So execute this, you would get output as 95, addition of those two numbers. So we have got addition. And yeah, as I said, we can copy or call it multiple times. It's not like only once we can call and again method we cannot call. So we creation would be just done once, creation of method, one method name. Same method name again we cannot create in the class. If we try to create, it would give us the error. So let's say this method one only I want to create. Again with the method name, you see, when I try to create with the same method name, it gives some error saying duplicate method found. So the name, either it should be a different one, or if it's doing the same purpose, only thing is it should be created just once, not multiple times. So addition is called executed. Now let's say whenever you want, I would execute this now 100 times. 100 times if I execute, I would get the same output, addition of that to 95, right? So what's the other thing? Let's say I don't want to print it here. So I know this addition would do this thing. So what it does, stores two variables, and the logic, whatever we perform with this two variables, it would be stored in this particular variable. And in this variable, so after that it ends. So when I execute this addition, what it does nothing, because in the main method you have just called addition and it goes to the addition. Inside addition, what have you done? You have done something, stored some values to a variable, but then after that you have not done anything. That's why here in the addition, it's even if you execute on the console, we are not getting anything. So which means, but what is our requirement from addition? We want addition of two numbers and it should be returned, let's say. So in that case, what we can do is we'll call a method addition one for now, I would say. And then I just don't want that to be void. I would say it has to be, I want something to be written. So I would say return what? So I want to return in this method, inside this method, when I write this, I just want to return addition of these two numbers. So what I can do, I can, so addition of two numbers is stored in this particular variable, and then I can just return this variable. So to return a variable, there is a keyword called return, and then what value you want to return. So depends. So every time when I execute, we can give any static. I would say I want to return every time one. So I can say return one, and then the return type for this method would not be void, because we are trying to return something. Since the return keyword is there, the keyword here for that method shouldn't be void. It should be something else. What it should be? It should be the type of variable what we are trying to return. So here, if you see, we are trying to return integer, right? So method type here would be int. So once we say int, so when this particular method addition one is called, let's say I don't want to call addition, I want to call addition one. So addition one, if I call, so what it does, addition executes this and it returns this. Now here we are just calling it. We are not again printing anything. That's why it's not showing on the console. So once this particular method, if we print it, let's say how to print a method, we can say print statement is this. Inside this, we will call our addition method, addition one method, and then save. So I'm just printing this thing. So if I execute, what happens? You see one. But what are we doing here? Again, addition of two numbers we are doing, but what are we returning? We are returning one static value, but we don't want to return a static value. We want to return every time whatever the result of this two addition is. So and that result is stored in this result variable. You can either say return this num1 plus num2 and then execute, so it returns as 95, or else, since this two we have already stored in this variable, let's try to use that variable. So instead of this, we'll just call variable and then execute. So it gives us addition of that two. So result would store 50 plus 45, which is 95, and 95 is returned to this method name wherever it is called, and here it directly comes as 95. So in this thing, what are you trying to do generally? Here you are saying just say 95. So this way you are doing it. So this and this, because if you say this thing, you can even call an integer, print integer. So every time it prints this 95 or whatever you give, right? So which means whatever you have written inside this would print it. Same way for this particular method, when it is called, it is returning us that particular value. That's why it's printing that value. So instead of this, what we can do, so this I don't want to print it that way, and here I'm calling that method, and then methods, I want to store it in again a variable. So you know what type of variable value it is. So this addition type of this value would be integer, right? So that's why we create an integer type, and then I would say this is addition or addition of a result or output, I would say for now. Output equals to, so int output, and then just print output. This way, if I execute, so what it does is it comes to 20th line. It would see, okay, int output, it is there. Okay, but what value are we assigning? So it sees a method is being called. So in from this particular line, it goes to the method. Inside this method, it executes whatever you have written, and then at the end, it returns the variable. Whatever value it holds, it returns it because of that return type. Because of this return type. So once it is executed at this point, now basically internally what it happens is it would be like int output equals to, instead of addition one, it would be 95. and then we are printing 95. That way we are doing. So now if you change again value, so 50 and 40, so I would say 60 and 40, 60 and 45. If I execute now, what's happening here? You see, okay, I've changed, sorry, the other method. I wanted to change this one. So this method, if I change, execute, we have got addition of this two. It comes here and it holds not 95 at this point, it holds 105, and then 105 you are printing. You can say addition of, this is our addition output or something, whatever user related information you want to give, you can give it. So this is addition. Now whenever, what are we doing here again? We are changing. So whenever we need different addition, we are changing this particular variable of code, right? So instead of this, what else we can do is, so for this particular method, we can have the method parameters. Now what is this method parameters? I'll just copy paste this same code again. I'll say this as addition 2 for now, another method which is not the same, but yeah, whatever you do, if you want to do, you can repeat the code. This code, this variable limit is only till this particular method, as I said, right? So this is a local variable, that's why the access, so same variable, same code, even if you are duplicating, repeating, it doesn't give an error saying what are this, it's duplicated, because the access of this particular thing is until this particular method ends, that's it. So same way we have written here addition to, but now let's say I don't want to do this. I will call a parameters here. Now what parameter is? So let's say for a particular method, if we want to pass any value as dynamic, so for that we can create a parameter. So how to create a parameter for a method? It would be so we can have multiple arguments or the parameter. So I would say I want to first of all, okay, I will show you the method that I want, and then based on that. So here it is calling this. After, I'll just disable this thing again. I just don't want it. When I execute, I won't have anything. Yeah. Now I want addition to kind of this way, but then it should here only I need to give value, which is like 80 and 45. I want these two numbers. So if you see this, I want some kind of method in this particular way. So since this is not written, not created, so we need to create our addition method which accepts these two parameters, and then it should, this method should return me the addition of these two numbers. So when you write this method name, and then we want in this way, right? So go to your method here. We know we want to have two parameters here. So what parameter? One is number one, let's say whatever number we give, and another is number two. So we can create two variables, but again this gives error because Java doesn't understand this variable type until you specify. But you know, with the name itself you are saying number, but Java doesn't understand. So that's why for a method as well, when you are passing any arguments or thing, you need to declare the type of it. So I know number one is what, integer type, so I would say int of number one. Same way next one, int of number two. It's not like you need to give same parameters. Also if you can, if you want, you can give some different argument, int name as a variable, even this. So only one type of arguments or parameters you can create. It's not like that. So you can create n number of this thing, separate with a this comma, and then type different types if you have, give it, and then the variable name. So we can create it this way. So I have two variables, which is number one and number two, and or instead of number one num2, I'll take num1 num2, num1 num2, and then so this value I don't want to give it. I don't want to hard code it or static put a static values here. So I'll just remove it. Now if you see what happens, so these two variables are there inside the code. We are, when you see here, this is coming from this. And when you say num2 is coming from this method. So whenever a method is called, you need to pass values from that method, and those two values, or for example this two values, right, these two values would come here and it would sit in this particular place in 80th 81st line here. What is that? Our first argument 80. So num1 is 80, num2 is 45. So it comes here, num1 assigns 80, num2 it assigns 45. So 80 plus 45 would be the result, and it would be returned. Once returned, again it comes to this thing. So in once this line is executed, what it holds the value of addition of these two numbers. And then again we want to store this in variable, as I said, right? So output as a variable, and I want to print it, right? And if you see now 125, so addition of 80 and 40, 80 and 45 is this. What else does it? So this is about static, the methods with the parameters. And if you want a different again different value instead of those particular additions, so I would say I'd output 1, and then instead of adding 80 40, this time I can call 40 45, and I can run. So output 1, but we are not using that output 1. I'll call that output 1, that variable, and execute. So you see 40 plus 45 85, it is adding those two. So whenever you want now addition of two different numbers, you just have to say addition addition to our method name, and then here this method would accept two parameters. So as soon as, okay, I'll say as soon as you say right addition, so you say addition of 2, so addition 1, addition empty. So this is void, it returns int, it returns int. And this addition 2 accepts again this parameters. So which is int num1, it is expecting int 2. So we want this particular method, which is int 1 and int 2. So int 1, I would say I want 70, and int 2, I would say 30. So this thing, if you want to just print this, use it here. So you say, I'm just printing it here in, so I can say run, and then you see 70 30. So instead of 70 30, if you change some value, the same addition would be there. So this is the another usage I would say for a method. But here if you see in this particular method, in this particular line, we have not written the code for addition, but still it's giving us, because we have done that in a separate method. And with this separate method, we are dynamically, whatever values are changing, we just given that as a parameter, and inside this parameter we are doing some logic and then returning that value. So once it is returned, it gives us whatever we have written. That's it. So this is about now a static. How about non-static? So where is our non-static method? So yeah, this is uh, method 2, and we know since there is no static keyword, it is non-static. So how to call a non-static thing again? So just say this thing. Yeah, nothing printed. So now we want to call a non-static method. How to call a non-static method? So we can do that with the help of object creation. So what is object creation and all? So basically, when I say static, as I said, it would be associated with the class, and you can call that particular method or variable directly inside that class with a normal name, directly a name. So same way, we were not able to do for a non-static. As I said, non-static is it won't be associated, so it's a separate instance basically. So for that, we need to create an object of the class. So how to create an object of the class? So the syntax for object creation is class name, and then the object name we need to give equals to, there would be a keyword called new, and then the constructor or the class name with function. Let's say this is nothing but the constructor. So this is the class name. So whatever the class name, so for any object, if you want to create object of any of the class, so what you have to do is you need to write class name and then object name. Object name can be anything, just a reference. So equals to new as a keyword for sure. We need to use it that way, and then the class name with a constructor. So same way, if you relate it, what do we have here? We have, but before that, yeah, okay, before this object class, object creation. So how did we access this method? Just directly with the name, right? What else we can do is we can also access it with the class name. So class name is, our class name is class2 dot addition. If I say, you see, all the static things are accessed, so which means it is associated with the class. So here I just want this thing, and then 20 and 30, 20 and 20. Yeah. So this thing, this is also same, and this is also same. uh, what we can do is, since it is whatever method we are calling, it is in the same class, so it's not compulsory for you to give the class name. By default it would assume, okay, you're trying to refer to the particular attribute or particular thing which is present in the same class. So that's why the class name is not mandatory. But let's say if we have created different class, and in other class, let's say I have class 3, and in that class 3 I want to access um, I'll say call method from other class, and I have a main method here. So inside this, inside this method, I would say I just want to print addition of two numbers. Again, we don't have to write that addition of two numbers because we have already a class wherein we have written a method for addition. So we just have to call that method. How to call that method? So here, just call the method with the class name. So class name is what we know, it is in class 2. So class 2 dot, when you say, you would get, see, all those static related things. So I want to call addition of these two numbers, which is 20 and 40. So here I've called this, and I can store this in variable and I can print, or I just directly want to print it. I'll just print it here. And then if I run, I'm now running just call method from other class. Only this class I am running. So in this class, if I run, it gives me the addition. You see what it does basically? It is trying to call a method which is in class 2. So here you cannot directly call with a method name. If you are directly calling it with method name, then Java shows an error saying you need to create this method in this particular class. In this class, again, addition of that two numbers you need to create, but we don't want to do that, right? So since we know it's already created, we'll just call that. So for that's reason we just to refer that, we'll refer with the class name dot the static method names or the static variables, that way. So inside class, this one is clear with the class name. Yeah, this is the thing. And now object creation, as I said, we can create with the class name, object name, just a reference for that class, and then new keyword and class name. So what's our class name? So since we want to access method 2, and method 2 is not there in our this access thing, so how to get that? With the help of object creation. How we do? Class name, we need to create object. So how to create which class? So we have the class as class 2, and then object name, it can be anything I said. So for now I'll say object obj equals to new, and then constructor would be class 2, again class name with function braces, which is called constructor over here. End it, that's it. So this, we have created an object of a class. since we have created an object of a class, again this warning it is giving because this obj object whatever you have created is not being used. So how to use, just say that name, object name whatever we have created dot. So when you say dot, now what do we want to access? We want to access all a non-static methods, right? So by default for an object also, Java has few methods internally written in this Java library. Even that we were able to access. Before object creation, were we able to access it? No, right? We were able to access only static thing, if you see here. So all these are static here. All these are static thing. That's why we were able to access. Not non-static thing, with the object creation we can access. So there is a clone method, equal method, finalize, get, notify, string. All these are few are non-static and few are also static. So with object creation we can access everything. It's not only the not non-static things. We can access static as well as non-static. So for now we want to just access the non-static method, right? So obj dot, what is our method name? It's addition to, no, what was that added? I forgot. Not addition, the method name, right? So method 2. So if you see method 2, so method 2 method name, so that's what I called here, and now I'm able to call it. So when I execute this, so it would print it. So let me execute it, run it, and you see method 2. So it is called method 2 because we have created an object of the class and then we are calling it. So same way, in other class also, if we want to access this method 2 here, can we call it just with the class name? No, right? Because with the class name, if you are calling, you would be able to only access static ones. But the method that we wanted to call is a non-static. So for that, instead of this thing, class name, you have to create object. How to create object? Object of that class, not this class. So object of which particular method you want to call. So object, I want to, the class is class 2, and then object name. I'll say this is class, I'll say reference equals to new class 2 with this constructor, and then I'll say ref dot method 2. That's it. So we are calling a non-static in other class. And now here also, if you execute, it would execute this addition first, since we have written that, and then 11th line. 11th line, what it does, it's calling, it has created, 9th line, it has created object of class 2, and then 11th line, it is calling this method 2. So when you jump, just say control and then mouse over on this, you would get this option. You can say open declaration or click on this. So open declaration. So it jumps to that particular class wherever that method is, and it points here. And inside this method, you have written to print. So once it is done, it has ended, it goes back to the class where it is called, and this line would be completed. That's it. So it has done this, and then after this, you have not done anything in this class. That's why it has ended, and a main method has ended. So this is object. So we know now what have we learned today. So we have got method, completely method creation, was a now usage, you can see, right? So whenever we want addition, again and again, we just don't have to say number 1 equal to this, number 2 equal to this, and then add num1 plus num2. All that lines of code, you just don't have to duplicate it again and again. So if you just create a method, you can directly call with the parameters. If you say parameter, you just call that and then use it wherever you need. So only methods. So this methods, we can call it any of the class in same package. So we are calling with just the reference of the class, again this thing with class name. In other packages also we can access, we can call this methods again. And since only because these methods are what, public. So if you say private here, now you see outside of the class, I was trying to access addition, and let's say I just don't want addition to be called somewhere outside. So what I would do is, instead of public, I would say private here. So which means this particular code or method, I don't want it to access outside the class. No one should access, no one should use it. If our requirement is it that way, what we can do is we can create a modifier as private here. And now when you see the other class was accessing, so you get an error. When you open it here, when you mouse over here, it says the method addition to from class 2 is not visible because we have hidden it, said private. So private property can't be accessed in public, right? That's why. The same way, so it says change visibility of addition to the package also. Again, it gives some addition if you want that to be fixed. So you just click on this addition thing and then it gives static. So default uh, access modifier is been created. Nothing is there, default is been created. And then default, if it is there, that default can now be accessed. But again, that default method, if you create another package and in another package in this class, if you want to access that method, can we do it? Can we do this? No. Reason, when you mouse over, again, it says change the visibility of addition to public because you are trying to access it in some other package. In the same package, if you do default related stuff, we can access. But different package, if it is there, since that method is private, but then later it was changed to default, so you cannot access it outside the package. If you want, then what you have to do is you need to change that method to as public. Is it clear, all these things? Anyone has any doubts? Clear? So I guess, yeah, if we are clear, then we are done for the day. Basically, so just to summarize, I would say we have just created a methods over here and methods we have called, right? So this is class one, class two. So this we have created methods, static, non-static, parameters, parameterless methods, and then we have created an object because to access, we want to access non-static things. That's why. So and in other class also we were able to access it with these things. So yeah, I would say that's it. So for the next class, what I would do is would explain about the loops, for loops, the conditions, if statement, else statement, and then the loops, how we use for loop, yeah, while. So those things I would be telling. So that all these things, when we actually try to do Selenium, all this stuff we would be using it. So only thing is you need to understand how to do this particular things, how to create a method, how to create a variable, how to create a class, and then uh, how to reduce our code, duplicate code since we don't want to create it. So how to do that with the help of these methods, right? So same thing, you just need to apply it. Whatever we are doing it, we need to apply it in the Selenium class. So yeah, then yeah, if anyone doesn't have any doubts, then I guess we are good to close. Okay then, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Pradeep. Bye.
Yeah, thank you.